Alright, so we've got Fia, our main character, in some serious trouble, talking about how things can't end like this. It's giving high-stakes drama from the jump. She's trying to keep her cool, but you can tell the situation is spiraling, and it has something to do with time. Fia hits up her handler, Nazo, because her night off got wrecked by a chrono adjustment. You know how it is. She's looking for a simple gig and gets assigned to a nostalgia tourist. This client, a Dr. Anderson, wants to revisit an old student spot. Seems low-key, but we all know that's famous last words. Fia and Dr. Anderson land in 2024, and the guy is fully geeking out. He's so hyped to be back in his old stomping grounds. Fia's all business, trying to keep him safe and on mission. But Anderson is just soaking in the vibes of the past, ready for his trip down memory lane at the Silver Flare Diner. They hit a snag with a locked gate, and old man Anderson is surprisingly spry, boosting Fia over the fence. He's totally reliving his glory days, talking about sneaking in with his friends for beers. It's a whole mood, but Fia's just focused on the objective, trying to get the lock open and keep the client secure. Fia is trying to figure out this lock situation and starts messing with random junk on the street to test the timeline's stability. Nazo is on comms, confirming that picking up a rag won't cause a paradox. It's a funny bit of insight into the weird rules of her job. Some things matter, some are just trash. Dr. Anderson sees the Silver Flare Diner and gets super emotional. He drops the bomb that he has a terminal illness, Schmain syndrome, and only has months to live. This trip is his last wish, a final taste of the burgers from his youth. The whole vibe just shifted from a fun tourist trip to something way heavier. Things go left when Anderson literally does a dine and dash, skipping out on the bill and disappearing into an alley. Fia is left to deal with the manager and a blaring alarm. She pays his massive bill and is completely baffled by his behavior. This was supposed to be an easy gig, but now it is a whole mess. Nazo reveals that Anderson didn't just run, he broke his Paradox Field Excluder, or PF. This is a massive problem because he's now unsynced from their timeline and can't be brought back. Fia is officially in a crisis, and Nazo sends her an upgrade, a weapon that vaporizes organic matter. The mission just got dark. Fia starts her investigation, tracking Anderson's younger self, who went by Andy. She heads to his old NYU dorm, trying to piece together what he is up to. She finds his room and starts digging through his digital life, looking for clues about why he would go rogue and risk everything for this trip to the past. The plot thickens as Fia uncovers info about Lisa Sandman, a girl from Andy's past. She died in an explosion 5 years from their current point in 2024. Fia realizes Anderson's goal wasn't just nostalgia, he wants to save Lisa's life. But it makes no sense why he would not just ask for official help. Fia finds Lisa trying to break into a professor's office. Lisa thinks Fia is campus security or something and is super cagey. Turns out someone hacked Lisa's email and sent a nasty letter to her professor. Lisa is trying to delete it before it ruins her academic career, and she has no idea who did it. After Fia helps Lisa delete the email, the two of them finally have a real conversation. Lisa talks about her relationship with Andy and mentions a fire escape they used to get to the roof. This gives Fia the final clue she needs to track down where the older Dr. Anderson is hiding out. Fia confronts Dr. Anderson on the roof. He confesses everything. He loved Lisa, and his official request to save her was denied because her death was considered necessary to preserve his own timeline and accomplishments. He hacked her email to get her expelled, hoping it would save her from the explosion. The ultimate gut punch, Fia reveals to Anderson that his plan failed. Because Fia helped Lisa delete the email, history is back on its original course and Lisa is still doomed to die. Heartbroken and defeated, Anderson accepts his fate, and Fia is forced to vaporize him as per her orders. It is a heavy moment. Fia links up with her mentor Duffy and Nazo at a bar to decompress. Duffy shares a story about a client who paradoxed her own career into oblivion over a movie role. It highlights the chaotic and often self-destructive nature of their work. The conversation is a mix of shop talk and coping mechanisms. In a wild turn of events, Fia gets chrono-shifted into an alternate timeline where she is married and has a son named Nick. She gets a call from her alternate husband, who is mad she forgot to pick their son up from soccer practice. It is a surreal and awkward glimpse into a life she could have had. The next day, Fia gets a new client, Chloe Sadar, a legendary boxing champion. Duffy is a massive fanboy and practically begs Fia to take care of her. Chloe's mission seems simple enough on the surface, but given Fia's track record, we all know it is about to get complicated. The calm before the storm. Chloe's mission is to travel to 1871 and meet her boxing hero, Simon Inman. She wants to ask him about his retirement, hoping it will give her some clarity on her own. It's a deeply personal quest for her, trying to find guidance from the past to navigate her future after leaving the sport. Their search for Simon leads them to a boxing gym run by a tough woman named Ida. At first, Ida denies knowing Simon, but Fia and Chloe press her. They learn that Simon was once a promising kid, but ended up becoming a thug. The image Chloe had of her hero is quickly starting to crumble. They track Simon to an oyster stand where he used to work. The owner, Mina, reveals that Simon was collecting money for some shady characters. Just as she is talking, Simon himself shows up, acting like a total goon. This is not the hero Chloe was expecting to meet at all. The reality is hitting hard. Things escalate at a bar called the Barking Dog. Simon walks in, gets into a confrontation with the bartender, Clara, and pulls a gun, shooting and killing Fia and Chloe. This triggers an emergency rewind protocol, sending Fia back in time a few moments to try and prevent the disaster from happening again. After several rewinds and a bit of clever thinking from Fia, they manage to neutralize Simon without anyone getting shot. However, Chloe is completely disillusioned. Her hero is a violent criminal. She feels like the trip was a mistake, but she is not a quitter and is determined to see it through and ask her question. They finally confront Simon at the ruins of his family home. He is a broken man, full of despair. Before Chloe can even really ask her question, Simon pulls out a gun and takes his own life. The historical record was wrong, and Chloe is devastated, feeling responsible for pushing him over the edge. Chloe refuses to accept this outcome. She pays for another time jump, this time to go back 6 months before the fight that supposedly changed Simon. Her new mission is to find the root cause of his downfall and prevent it, saving his life and, in a way, restoring her own faith. They discover that Simon's championship fight was a sham. His opponent, Brian Mason, was drunk and threw the match. Simon did not win because of skill. He won because the fight was rigged. This adds another layer of tragedy to his story, making his eventual turn to crime feel almost inevitable. They meet Simon's younger sister, Paula, who is fiery and protective. They learn that their family home is about to be demolished for a city project, and Simon is pinning all his hopes on the prize money from the fight to save them. The pressure on him is immense, explaining so much of his desperation. By jumping forward and back in time, Fia pieces together the full story. A local gang, the Breakdown Boys, led by Simon's own Uncle Eddie, forced Mina to fire Simon and then recruited him. They were the ones who orchestrated his fall from grace, pulling him into a world of crime he could not escape. Fia confronts Simon with the truth about his uncle being a gang leader, but he refuses to believe it. He sees his uncle as family, someone who has always been there for them. Simon is in deep denial, unable to see the manipulation that has been happening right under his nose his whole life. The real turning point is revealed. On the night of the big fight, Simon's sister Paula dies in a tragic accident in the woods near their home. This loss is what truly breaks Simon and sends him spiraling. Fia and Chloe realize that saving Paula is the key to saving Simon. Fia and Chloe rush to the woods and find Paula trapped under a fallen tree. Using her multi-tool's enhanced strength, Fia lifts the tree and saves Paula's life. They have successfully altered the past, but they still do not know if it was enough to change Simon's ultimate fate. Fia uncovers a ledger that proves Uncle Eddie paid off Ida and Brian to throw the fight. The entire championship was a setup to build Simon's reputation before forcing him into the gang. It was a calculated plan to groom him, and Simon was just a pawn in his uncle's game. After a wild confrontation where Chloe literally fights Brian, he confesses to throwing the match. He feels terrible about it and decides to tell Simon the truth before the fight. This completely changes the course of events, as the fight will now be fair, but the consequences are still unknown. The timeline shifts again. Uncle Eddie, furious that his plan is ruined, confronts Simon and Chloe at the house. He is about to kill them both. Fia is too far away to get there in time, so Nazo patches her into Chloe's comms to help her stall Eddie until Fia can arrive and intervene. Chloe, guided by Fia and Nazo, manages to convince Simon that he could be a better leader of the Breakdown Boys than his uncle. This plants a seed of rebellion in Simon. Just as Eddie is about to shoot, Fia arrives and uses her weapon to stun Eddie, changing his timeline ranking and neutralizing the threat for good. With the timeline finally stabilized, Simon chooses to take over the gang on his own terms. Chloe, realizing the original fight never happened, steps into the ring herself to fight Brian. She becomes the inspiration for her younger self, creating a bootstrap paradox and neatly closing her own loop. It is a wild ending. Fia and Duffy are back at the bar, and he raises a poignant question about why they were chosen for this job. He suggests it is because they are orphans with no attachments, making them immune to the pain of a constantly changing past. It is a moment of deep reflection on the lonely nature of their existence. The next mission begins with a new client, Imani Cameron, an art curator. She wants Fia to travel to 1923 to authenticate a painting by a mysterious artist known only as Sycamore. The mission seems straightforward, a simple validation task, but things are about to get personal in a way Fia could never expect. Fia and Imani arrive in 1923 New York, and Imani is captivated by the vibrant colors of the era, so different from the black and white photos she is used to. They follow a lead to a jewelry shop where a Sycamore painting was once displayed, hoping to find a clue to the artist's identity. They trace the painting to its former owner, Jackson Grant. While in his house, Imani is overcome by a terrible smell and nausea. Nazo informs Fia that Imani is experiencing precursor syndrome, a violent reaction to being near a direct ancestor. Jackson Grant is her great-great-grandfather. Imani has to be sent back to her own time to avoid paradoxing herself out of existence. Fia continues the mission alone and runs into Jackson's rebellious daughter, Elizabeth, and her roguish new husband, Arthur. They are Imani's great-grandparents, and they are a chaotic, drunken mess. Elizabeth and Arthur strike a deal with Fia, whom they hilariously mistake for a demon. If she can get a cop to leave their dad's house, they will tell her where they got the paintings. It is a ridiculous negotiation that Fia has no choice but to agree to if she wants to solve the mystery. Fia gets the cop to leave, only for Elizabeth and Arthur to steal his car and drive it into a river. The cop is now hunting them, and Fia is caught in the middle. The night descends further into chaos as Fia tries to wrangle these two unpredictable ancestors to get the information she needs. After another tense standoff with the cop, Fia finally gets a lead from Arthur. His mother is Sycamore. She lives on Thompson Street. Fia has found her target, but the journey to get this simple piece of information has been an absolute whirlwind of drunken antics and near-death experiences. Fia finds the artist's studio and comes face-to-face with Sycamore, who is none other than Paula Inman, Simon's sister, now an old woman. In a stunning twist, Paula recognizes Fia as the angel who saved her life 50 years ago. She has been painting Fia from memory ever since. Fia realizes they are too early. The unsigned painting Imani wants to authenticate has not been created yet. Paula believes Fia has come because her time is up, but Fia assures her she is not there to harm her. Paula asks for a few more hours to finish her final painting, a gift for her son Arthur. While Fia is with Paula, a massive timeline spike occurs. Imani begins paradoxing out of existence. Nazo discovers that in the present, Arthur and Elizabeth are about to rob the jewelry store and get killed, erasing Imani's entire family line. Fia has to race to stop the heist and save her client's existence. Fia is forced to join the heist to keep Arthur and Elizabeth alive. She uses her knowledge and tech to guide them through the robbery, ensuring they get the money without setting off alarms or getting caught. It is a surreal moment of committing a crime to preserve the timeline. The heist is a success. Arthur and Elizabeth escape with the money, their future secured, and Imani's timeline is restored. As they leave, they decide to change their last name to Nash, a name Fia randomly suggests. Fia has not only saved them, but has also inadvertently named her handler's ancestors. Fia returns to find that Paula has finished her painting. It is a portrait of Fia, titled My Guardian Angel. The mystery is solved, the painting is authenticated, and Fia is now immortalized in a work of art. Duffy later points out how strange and unprecedented this is for one of their agents. The story takes its final tragic turn. The next day, Fia arrives at work to find that Duffy is dead. He intentionally time-jumped without his protective suit, a form of suicide for a time agent. His death is chronolocked and irreversible. The timeline malaise he spoke of had finally consumed him. Devastated but resolute, Fia throws herself back into her work. Her new client, Benjamin Passimon, wants to go back and alter his past to steal a successful tech company from his former partner. The cycle begins anew, with Fia continuing her lonely job of fixing lives and preserving legacies forever changed by her own. So Fia's on another mission, but this time she's rolling solo because her partner got sent away. Protocol, you know the vibes. The mission is at this startup called Leaves, which is giving very much salad tech bro energy. It's all about changing the timeline for a client, Mr. Passimon. Fia runs into this dude, Sam Dean, who's a temp, and they're both locked out because of a duplicate ID error. It's super sus, like the system is flagging some timeline fraud. They're stuck outside, just yapping about corporate secrets and faulty keycards, which is honestly a whole mood. Fia starts dropping hints to Sam that his temp agency, STP, is secretly stealing company secrets. She's laying it on thick, trying to get him to doubt them. The whole setup feels like a corporate thriller, but with a side of time travel drama that's about to pop off. She finally gets through to Sam by connecting the dots. The agency makes him write detailed reports about his gigs, and the company has super tight security. It's the perfect setup for corporate espionage. Sam is shook, realizing he's basically been an unknowing pawn in their game this whole time. Now inside, Fia gets mistaken for the new temp and is immediately put to work fixing a broken salad drone. She's got an engineering background, so she nails it, impressing the actual engineer Benji. It's giving undercover boss, but instead of a boss, she's a time traveler. Madison Bates, one of the company's heads, is practicing her big pitch to investors. It's all about delivering fresh, locally grown produce via drones, even in winter. Her speech is a little cringe, but the vision is there. Fia's job is to make sure this pitch never happens to help her client. Fia helps Madison improve her speech, but she's actually sabotaging it by suggesting cringy word replacements. She swaps frigid for intense and fragrant for aromatic, making the whole thing sound super weird. It's a low-key savage move to ensure the presentation is a total flop. The mission is a success. Madison's botched presentation means she's out, and Benji Passamon takes over as CEO, creating Passamon Industries. The timeline is officially altered. Fia learns that in this new reality, the company never filed any patents, leaving its future a total mystery. It's a weird win. Fia meets up with Imani, a gallery curator, and they talk about how timelines shift. Fia can't even remember her own original name, and the company she just altered is already a forgotten memory. It's a real trip how quickly reality can get rewritten, leaving you feeling like a ghost. A new client shows up. It's Madison Bates from the original timeline. She's not happy that Passamon turned their company into a weapons manufacturer and wants Fia to go back and fix it, so she gives the presentation instead. This is getting messy, with timelines folding in on themselves. Things go sideways fast. Fia's jump overlaps with her previous one, creating a Crovergence. She literally runs into her past self and melts, which is just a wild concept. It's a glitch in the Matrix moment, and now she has to hide from herself while trying to complete the mission. Instead of aborting, Fia decides to lean into the chaos and complete the Crovergence mission, which is apparently a legendary move. She has to dodge her other self while simultaneously making sure Madison is the one who gives the presentation. It's high stakes, main character energy for real. Fia successfully manipulates events so that both Madison and Benji give the presentation together. This new timeline results in the company being called Leaves permanently, with both of them as co-leaders. It's a compromise that avoids the whole weapons-making drama, so it's a solid W. Another client, Cassie, the office manager from Leaves, wants to change the timeline again. She's tired of Benji and Madison's drama and wants to take over the company herself. This means Fia has to go back to the same day for a third time, risking a double Crovergence. Fia is now navigating a timeline with two past versions of herself running around. It's absolute chaos as she tries to orchestrate events without causing a paradox. She has to make sure both Benji and Madison miss the presentation so that Cassie is forced to step in and give it. By subtly altering the presentation timer, Fia convinces Benji he has enough time to go on a date, getting him out of the office. Then she triggers Madison's nap mode by messing with the vertical farm settings. It's a masterclass in timeline manipulation, clearing the way for Cassie. The mission is a success, but the fallout is insane. Benji and Madison, retaining residual memories from the other timelines, show up and are not happy. They cause a scene that results in Fia and Nose getting stuck in a death loop, forcing Nose to send Fia back to fix it. Fia manages to break the death loop by disarming both Benji and Madison before they can cause any harm. It's a tense standoff, but she pulls it off, saving Nose and herself. After the chaos, she and Nose finally take a much-needed break and go out for drinks. Over drinks, Nose opens up about his past and how he lost his entire family to a timeline shift. It's a heavy moment that explains why he's so by the book. He tells Fia that she and Duffy were chosen for the job because they're emotionally resilient, like rocks. A new client, Detective Hannah Tanaka, hires Fia for a deeply personal mission to stop the murder of her best friend, Yvonne, which took place on September 10, 2001. The case is complicated because its investigation was overshadowed by the events of the next day, leaving it cold. Fia and Hannah track down the confessed killer, Nick Cord, only to find out that neutralizing him doesn't change the timeline, Yvonne still dies. They realize he was just a hired gun, and if he couldn't do the job, someone else was sent in his place. The plot thickens. Their investigation leads them to the World Trade Center, where they discover Yvonne was having an affair with a woman named M, who works there. This M is actually Imani, the gallery curator Fia knows from another timeline. Fia's personal and professional lives are starting to seriously blur. Fia warns Imani not to go to work the next day, trying to save her from the 9/11 attacks without breaking protocol. It's a risky move, but she feels a connection to Imani that she can't ignore. This mission is quickly becoming about more than just the client's request. The truth finally comes out. Hannah was a dirty cop taking bribes from the company Yvonne was investigating. Yvonne confronted her, and Hannah's corrupt partners had her killed, forcing Hannah to cover it up. The whole mission was a lie, so Hannah could erase her guiltiest secret. To prevent Fia and Nose from pulling her out, Hannah gets herself arrested by assaulting a police officer. It's a desperate move to stay in the past and try to fix her mistakes, but it completely derails the mission and leaves Fia in a tough spot, forced to abandon her. Fia jumps to the future to pick up Hannah after her prison sentence, but she's gone. The timeline has shifted. In this new reality, Hannah's younger self died on 9/11, paradoxing the older Hannah out of existence. Now Fia has to go back and prevent her client's death. It turns out Tanner was Hannah's undercover name. In the new timeline, she wasn't sent to kill Yvonne, but Imani. The entire hit was a setup. Hannah's corrupt colleagues planned for her to be killed in the process, making it look like a tragic death in the line of duty. Fia goes to see Imani in prison, who explains that she killed the younger Hannah in self-defense. The officer, Hannah, came into her office late at night, silent and menacing, and reached for a gun. Imani reacted first. This act of self-defense ironically saved Imani's life from the 9/11 attacks. Fia goes back in time one last time to prevent the confrontation. She intercepts Imani and keeps her from going back to the office, leading her away from the building. However, young Hannah tracks them down, leading to a tense chase through the streets as Fia protects Imani. The older, paradoxed version of Hannah appears, her memories glitching between her original life and the new, corrupted one. Realizing she became a monster, she chooses to end her own existence by shooting her younger self, resolving the paradox in the most tragic way possible. With the timeline stabilized, Fia and Imani spend the night together. In the morning, Imani goes to her job at the World Trade Center, her life saved. Fia is left with the bittersweet knowledge that she changed fate, but now must return to her own time, leaving Imani behind. Years later, Fia finds Imani, now an old woman, at the art gallery. They reconnect, but their reunion is cut short when Imani's timeline shifts again. She dies in a storage room fire in 2029. Fia is devastated, realizing that even her victories are temporary and fragile. Fia takes on a new case about a missing horror writer, Otis Knox. But the investigation quickly reveals that her supposedly dead partner, Duffy, faked his death, killed the real Otis Knox, and has been living as him for 15 years to be with the woman he loves. The ultimate betrayal is revealed. Duffy is the man who has been living as Otis Knox. He faked his own death and murdered the original writer, all for love. He confronts Fia, explaining that he did it to save the woman he loves, Mara, from an abusive relationship. To escape, Duffy poisons Fia and disappears into the past. Fia is left dying, but she refuses to give up. Using Duffy's own jury-rigged time travel equipment and a series of rewinds, she synthesizes an antidote, saving herself through sheer willpower and resourcefulness in a race against time. After curing herself, Fia confronts Duffy one last time. He gives her a speech about choosing a life full of love and meaning over their empty observational existence. In a moment of understanding, Fia lets him go, choosing to lie to No and say that the mission is complete. In the end, Fia makes the ultimate choice. She jumps to 2029 to the NYU lab fire, knowing the risks. She breaks protocol and goes against everything she's been taught to save Imani, choosing love and a meaningful existence over her own life. It's a final, defiant act of humanity. Years later, Nose visits the art gallery and meets an elderly Imani. She confirms that Fia faked her death and they lived a happy life together. Fia found her own path, just like Duffy. In a touching final moment, Imani introduces herself to Nose, whose real name is Frank.